gone. But Ben, let's bring you back, because of course we've seen the seeds for this deliberate destruction of communities and society coming over a great many years, and you've been watching at least one of the key organisations very closely.
Indeed, I have, yes. What we're talking about here is the Fabian Society and this concept of woke fascism, which I spoke about the first time a couple of weeks ago, which is, I believe, this emergent ideology that is driving the political classes, not just in this country, but also further afield, and really sits behind this global agenda that's currently rolling out. Now, just to define those a little bit more clearly, woke means intersectional Marxism, and fascism is the integration of the market and the state. I call this an unholy alliance between power and money, and I believe that this is what Fabianism is. Right? This is what I believe that this doctrine is. Now, we're going to explore this a little bit more with some real-life examples from the current Labour government, some of the people in the ecosystem surrounding it, in particular today looking at DavidLammy, who has been on the column quite a bit over the past week, and for good reason, because he's doing some very interesting and concerning things right now. Let's have a look at this from the woke fascist perspective. We're going to start with woke, and DavidLammy is a founding trustee of Black Equity Organisation. You can actually see him on the left-hand side there on the front page of their website. They have a tribute to him on their people page, saying that he's currently serving as our country's foreign secretary. David was one of BEO's founding trustees with a strong vision to deliver a better lived experience for Black communities. Lived experience is neo-Marxist language. And we look forward to his ongoing support for the organisation. We're very grateful for his support and the commitment to BEO's mission. What is their mission? Well, it's equity. Well, what's equity? Because it's different to equality. What is the difference? Equality means every person, group of people, or segment of society gets the same opportunities, resources, and support. But equity goes further. People with different circumstances, those who have been historically marginalised and oppressed, for example, receive varying levels of opportunities and support, so they are able to reach an outcome equal to others. It levels things up. Equity can only be delivered by a totalitarian state. There is no other way for that system to be administered. So they use these words to paint a nice, friendly picture about what this system is there to do. But in order to actually deliver it, it requires a form of totalitarianism. Right? Also, as an aside, and this is for any Afro-Caribbean people watching this, I just refer you to this quote from Benjamin Disraeli, the two-time Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. "London is a modern Babylon." I'll leave that with you. And we've looked at the woke side of things, the Marxist side of things, and let's have a look at the fascist side of things, because it's an integration of both of those things. Last week, or maybe the week before, I think Mike spoke about Lammy's speech at Kew Gardens, where he was talking about his foreign policy, which basically involves putting the UK at the centre of a reinvigorated climate fight. It's all about international development funds and basically stimulating a market demand for British technology companies to go overseas and to make money. That's what they're using the Foreign Office for. And who's guiding this policy? Well, it's not actually DavidLammy. He's outsourced a review of impact funding from the Foreign Office to a lady called Ngaire Woods, who is the Dean of Oxford Blavatnik School of Government. And she's leading an expert review for UK government on strengthening global impact and expertise. Let's have a little bit more of a look at Ngaire Woods. So she says here, it says here, DavidLammy appointed her. He's appointed her to lead this review. She's obviously very excited about this. She says it's a privilege to chair the Global Impact Review of the Foreign Office and contribute to refreshing and strengthening the UK's approach to foreign policy and contributions to international cooperation. She isn't just a professor at Oxford. She's also on the board of Arup, Rio Tinto. She's on the Trilateral Commission for Europe. And amongst many other positions, she's also a member of the World Economic Forum, where she delivered these remarks in 2023.
The good news is the elite across the world trust each other more and more, so we can come together and design and do beautiful things together. The bad news is that in every single country they were polling, the majority of people trusted that elite less. So we can lead, but if people aren't following, we're not going to get to where we want to go.
So that is where our foreign money has been sent to, essentially. Like that's who's auditing how our international development funds are spent. She believes she's part of an international elite. Luckily, she doesn't think that the international elite are doing a particularly good job and that people aren't following them. And so there's certainly some hope out there in the world. So that's the fascist side of the system. The World Economic Forum, where those marks were delivered, is a public-private marketplace. That's the dictionary definition of fascism. And all of those things, Marxism and fascism, coalesce around Fabianism, the Fabian Society. And DavidLammy, who we've been talking about, is a member of the Fabian Society. He delivered some remarks to them. Oh, sorry, let's jump ahead again slightly. He delivered some remarks to the Fabian Society back in January. This is from DavidLammy's personal website. He says, "Friends, I want to begin by thanking you all. From the very beginning of our party, the UK Labour Party, the Fabian Society has been there. All Labour, as an aside, all Labour Prime Ministers have been members of the Fabian Society, by the way." Continuing with the statement, "From the intellectual heft of Beatrice and Sidney Webb to the Fabians in Ramsay MacDonald's first cabinet, from the part you played modernising Labour in the 1990s to the support you've given today's Fabians, Keir Starmer, myself, and much of the shadow cabinet, I think it's about half of the shadow cabinet, the Fabian Society has always been wise enough to know that political ideas only have real value when they can be put into practice. This year, Keir Starmer's leadership means we have our best opportunity in a generation to turn our ideas into change as the UK goes to the polls in this bumpy year of elections around the world." Right, so this is one of the, at the time he was a shadow foreign secretary, he's now a foreign secretary, one of the great offices of state, basically describing the fact that the Fabian Society has penetrated the very top levels of the Labour Party pretty much since its inception. How else does it play out? Well, Gordon Brown, he's a member of the Fabian Society. He's doing a very odd hand signal there. I'm not sure what that is. Talking to the Scottish Fabians. Gordon Brown was actually appointed to the board of the Rockefeller Foundation earlier on this year as well. So you can see how that global agenda aligns with the Fabian agenda. And he's also been tasked with rewriting the British Constitution. You know, these are no small task for an unelected individual who never won a general election as Prime Minister. And he's delivering this on stage. This was back in 2022, sitting alongside Keir Starmer. So they are essentially working in very close coordination with each other around this international agenda, a lot of it being mediated through the Fabian Society. And let's, of course, not forget Brown's, I want to call him Brown's sidekick, but it's probably the other way around, wasn't it? Tony Blair. Anyway, the arch Fabian, you can see him there in front of the Fabian stained glass window, and let's have a little listen to Tony Blair's vision for the future of the country.
I am constantly saying to my own party, Labour Party, which will probably win this election, you've got to focus on this technology revolution. It's not an afterthought. It's the single biggest thing that's happening in the world today of a real world nature that is going to change everything. Leave aside all the geopolitics and the conflicts and war and America, China, all the rest of it. This revolution is going to change everything about our society, our economy, the way we live, the way we interact with each other. I think we're living through a period of massive change, right? This is the biggest technological change since the Industrial Revolution, for sure. How do you use it to transform healthcare, education, the way government functions? How do you help educate the private sector as to how they can embrace AI in order to improve productivity? I mean, this is a huge agenda for a government and a really exciting one. You know, people get a bit depressed about being in politics because you get all this criticism. People certainly in the West feel society is not changing fast enough and well enough. And I say, no, it's a really exciting time to be in politics because you've got this massive revolution that you've got to come to terms with.
And how is that revolution being delivered? Well, the Fabian Society are at the Labour conference up in Manchester this week, and we can see just a few items from their agenda for the week. The future for science, innovation and technology delivered in partnership with Meta. So they're working directly with Facebook, one of the big tech companies, which is just riddled with scandal and poor business practices. Who else is there? Well, they're talking about the future for the economy and growth in partnership with Lloyds Banking Group, which is a World Economic Forum partner. And Lloyds Banking Group are also sponsoring the Fabian Society reception, which is probably going to have the worst DJ battle in history between Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and Steve Rotherham, Mayor of Liverpool. So yeah, make of that what you will. That's on tonight if you're in Manchester and you want to head down and have a little bit of a laugh. So anyway, just to sum up, woke fascism, woke intersectional Marxism, fascism, integration of market and state, an unholy alliance between money and power, aka Fabianism, basically running the country right now.
Ben, thank you very much for that. I'm just going to say to some of our audience, people are saying that what's coming out of the mouths of these individuals is rubbish and nonsense. Depressing, certainly depressing. But of course, we need to understand the words coming out of their mouths, because it's only by understanding what they're saying that we can understand what they're doing and how our society is being destroyed around us. So don't dismiss the words. Pay attention to what these individuals are talking about, because they're telling you what they're going to do to completely reshape your life and the life of your family.